When a broke girl rescues a billionaire from fainting, her life takes an unimaginable turn. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It began like any other mundane Tuesday, my stomach growling with hunger as I sat behind the counter of the cafe, clasping my trembling hands. The dim, flickering lights overhead made me feel even more invisible, like dust collecting in the corners. Then, I heard a commotion outside. My heartbeat quickened as I glanced through the fogged-up window. A crowd had gathered. Excited whispers danced through the throngs, filling the air with anticipation. It was strange what could possibly be happening. I pushed through the cafe door, the cold air biting at my cheeks, and stepped into the chaos. And there he was, the man everyone was gasping over. He was towering, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, with striking features that could only belong to a billionaire. But his eyes, those piercing blue eyes, were fluttering shut. Time slowed. Panic surged within me. He was collapsing, his luxurious frame crumpling like a paper doll. I rushed forward, fighting through the throng of spectators. My heart raced, rage and fear blending as I elbowed people aside. I reached him just in time, catching his solid body against mine. The world around us faded, leaving only his weight, the warmth radiating from his skin, and the soft scent of expensive cologne. His breath was shallow, Saki, a man used to power, now humbled. I don't know what drew me to him. Was it the thrill of the unexpected? Or perhaps the sense of urgency that spiked through my veins? I pushed back my fear, my meager existence. I didn't have time to panic. I couldn't let him fall. My trembling hands pressed against his chest, a weird calm washing over me as adrenaline coursed through my veins. I felt the collective gaze of the crowd, their murmurs rising like an ominous chant. This wasn't just a random incident, it was an event. In moments, I saw familiar faces in the crowd. My old friends, ex-boyfriends, people I thought I had left behind. Yet, they watched, astonished. I could feel their judgment wrapping around me. What did they see? A girl who barely made rent, who was still stuck in her dead-end job. Or a hero battling against fate? I called his name, hoping for some response. But nothing came. The struggle of breath against his lips was the only sound. My heart pounded. The world turned hazy around me as I leaned closer, whispering words of encouragement, as if they'd somehow reach his foggy mind. The crowd shifted, some gasped, others cried out. Was this my moment to change everything? Did my life really hang in the balance with him? In the midst of it all, a realization hit me like a thunderbolt. What if he wasn't just a man? What if he was the key to something more? A billionaire, a life I could only dream of, lying here in my arms, bleeding hope through his expensive shirt. But just as quickly as that thought formed, a scream broke through, shrill, sharp like glass shattering. Get back. Step away. Looming figures in dark suits pushed through the crowd, their faces a mixture of authority and dread. Panic surged through me. Would they take him from me? Would I slip away into the shadows once again, forever haunted by this moment? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The chaos around me swirled like a storm, each gust of emotion battering against the fragile walls I had built over the years. I could feel the weight of judgment bearing down from the eyes of onlookers. Would they ever see me as more than a nobody? A girl wrapped in a rickety apron serving coffee for tips? It didn't matter. In that moment, all that mattered was the life slipping through my fingers, They reached me, the men in suits, grim visages that spoke of urgency, authority, and danger. I gripped him tighter, unwilling to let go. "Please, don't take him away." My voice trembled, raw and pleading, echoing my fear. "He needs help." One of the agents, tall and intimidating, crouched beside us, assessing the situation with a glance that felt both clinical and cold. "He's stable. We have medics on the way," he assured, although his expression was anything but reassuring. Everything about him projected an overwhelming sense of control, as if he were a storm cloud, ready to unleash fury at a moment's notice. But I had learned long ago that life rarely played fair. As the crowd buzzed with excitement, whispers started bouncing back and forth. "Who is she? Why is she holding him like that?" I could feel my past 10 years crushing me, dragging me into obscurity. What if I had made the wrong choice? What if this was the end of my one shot at something beyond my bleak existence? Desperation coursed through me, stirring an ember deep within. I was tired of being invisible, of letting life push me around. Suddenly, with an intensity one didn't even recognize, I leaned even closer to the man. "Stay with me," I urged, feeling foolish and brave at the same time. "You're not alone. I believe in you." To my utter surprise, his eyelids flickered, his breath hitched just slightly. A faint pulse of lithium flicker of hope igniting amidst despair. I watched in awe as he seemed to respond, as if my words had slipped through the fog and found their mark. Then, an ambulance siren wailed in the distance, but it felt both like a promise and a threat. While it brought comfort, a chance to save him, the sound also amplified my own insecurity. What would happen when they took him away? Would I be lost again, slipping back into the shadows? As they lifted him onto a stretcher, I hesitated for a heartbeat. My heart thudded as I hovered there, torn between wanting to grab onto him, to let him know he wasn't alone, and the desperation for the safety net of my unnoticed life. "Ma'am, step back." An agent barked, startling me from my reverie. I stumbled back, watching helplessly as the medics tended to him, confusion swirling and threatening to drown me. An invisible thread tapped at my heart, pulling me toward him. Could I even let this moment pass? In a sudden spark of courage, I stepped forward again. "I can help," I shouted, my voice cracking against the weight of my emotions. "I can do something." The agent held a hand up, his eyes narrowing. "You can't be here." "Well, take it from here." But the billionaire's eyes met mine, and there was something in that gazelle whisper of something needed. I wasn't prepared for what happened next. As the medic secured the gurney, he spoke, his voice rough and weak but undeniably alive. "Wait." The entire world paused at his command. "Stay," he breathed out, pain laced through his words. And in that single utterance, I felt something shift. It was a fragile thread, but it connected us in a way that seemed impossible just moments ago. Before I could even process the implications, the stretcher rolled away, taking him down the steps toward the waiting ambulance. In a whirlwind of uncertainty, I felt the crowd peel away, and I caught glimpses of familiar faces, those friends who had become distant memories, standing in awe of the unfolding drama. I stumbled back into the cafe, my heart still thrumming wildly, not just from what had happened but from that fleeting moment of connection. But as I turned to look back at the ambulance lights flashing against the fading daylight, I noticed something, a dark figure watching me closely from the edge of the street. His expression was unreadable, but something deep in the chasm of his eyes pierced through my certainty. Fear knotting in my stomach, I realized that he wasn't just an onlooker. He was part of this whirlwind, a puzzle I hadn't yet deciphered. As the ambulance drove away, my phone buzzed. Curiosity mingled with dread as I pulled it out. One message, from an unknown number. "You've made a powerful connection. Watch your back." My heart dropped. Uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud over my head. In that moment, through the depth of fear and possibility, I understood I was no longer just a broke girl working a dead-end job. I had unwittingly become part of a world where every choice mattered, where danger loomed large, and hope flickered like a candle in a restless wind. Would I be brave enough to follow wherever that light led? The weight of the unknown pressed heavily against my chest as I gazed down at my illuminated phone, the message hanging ominously in the air. The screen flickered, almost mocking me with its silence, while outside the bustling cafe, life resumed its normal rhythm. Customers chatted, oblivious to the storm that had swept through my life just moments ago. I slipped into a corner booth, my thoughts racing through the chaos that had unfolded. What connection had I made? What had compelled me to reach for him, when I had long since learned to step back? The question clung to the edges of my mind, the dark figure lurking at the street corner, a reminder that more than just judgment and gossip rattled around me. The world around me felt muffled, a distant echo of laughter and steaming coffee. I wrapped my fingers around a cup of lukewarm coffee that had long since lost its steam as I stared blindly at the reflection in the dark liquid. My own face stared back, wide-eyed and strangely vulnerable. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about who I was becoming. Suddenly my thoughts were punctured by the warm, familiar sound of the cafe door jingling. I looked up to see Eva, my former best friend, stepping in enthusiastically, her smiles illuminating a space I thought was permanently dark. She paused mid-step at the sight of me, her face shifting from joy to concern as she approached. "What happened?" "I heard a commotion," she asked, her vibrant eyes scanning my face, searching for answers. There was no judgment there, only worry. I hesitated, grappling with how to articulate the bizarre turn of events that had just unraveled. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I faltered, memories of him flooding back. "Listen, whatever it is, you need to tell me," she pressed, sliding into the seat across from me. "I knew it was crazy out there. I wanted to check in. I missed you." Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, easing away the cold tang of loneliness that had been biting at my edges. "I missed you too." As I opened my mouth to share the events that unfolded, a sudden rush interrupted us. Two men in dark suits entered the cafe, with an air of authority that made my stomach flip. They were the same agents who had been at the scene. My eyes widened with panic, instinctively searching for a way to hide, for a door I could sneak through to evade them. "Is she here?" one of them barked, scanning the room with a cold intensity. I ducked lower in my seat, heart racing. "What's wrong?" Eva whispered, her brow furrowed in confusion. "They're looking for me," I stammered, panic creeping into my voice. "They said I can't be part of this. I don't know what I did, but they want to know what I know." Eva's face shifted, torn between disbelief and concern. "What did you do?" I felt that burst of bravery I had experienced before, that whisper of possibility pushing me forward. "I saved someone. At least I think I did." My voice wavered as memories of his gaze captured me. He was fainting, and the door swung open again, and a middle-aged woman with kind eyes entered the cafe. She caught sight of the agents immediately. "Excuse me. I think you're looking for me," she called, her voice slicing through the tension with unexpected strength. The agents turned sharply, urgency radiating from their posture. "You need to leave," one instructed her, glancing at me briefly before returning all attention to her. "Not until I talk to him," she insisted, determination etched on her face. "I was the one who called for help." "Ma'am, this isn't a discussion," the agent replied curtly. "You need to provide your information now," she explained, her voice ringing out like a bell in a forgotten chapel. "You've missed the whole point here. You need to listen to him called out for help. There's something here you aren't aware of." My heart raced as I watched the exchange unfold, confusion swirling within me. What was happening? Who was this woman? Who are you? I whispered to Eva, eyes not leaving the woman. Someone who knows more than the rest of us do, Eva murmured, her voice barely audible. Just, please don't get involved. But as the agents began to crowd the woman, I sensed an unexpected shift in the air. A flicker of hope ignited in the depths of my uncertainty. That man you saved, he needs to know what's coming, the woman said, her words tipping the scale of my curious dread. My heart thundered in my chest as she turned toward me after the agents restrained her with frustrating insistence. You're not just a girl in an apron anymore, she said softly, a knowing look washing over her face. You've just become part of something bigger. As the agents ushered her away, I felt a surge of adrenaline. Suddenly, everything felt too connected, too important to ignore. Somehow, I was woven into a narrative that extended far beyond myself, and I couldn't retreat into the shadows now. As the door swung shut behind them, I looked back at Eva, who was watching me closely with an expression that mirrored my own internal battle. What do I do? I asked breathlessly, heart racing with fear and flashes of a dark, unknown path stretching before me. Her lips pressed into a thin line, eyebrows knit together. You stand your ground. You've already stepped into this, whether you like it or not. But promise me don't let fear win. Just then, my phone buzzed again, jolting me from thought. I opened it to read another message from that unknown number. They're coming for you next. Ice cascaded through my veins, and the world tilted beneath me. I was no longer just Clara, the invisible girl serving coffee. I had stumbled into a reality teetering on the precipice of danger and discovery. And there was no turning back now. The warmth of the cafe began to fade into a distant memory, replaced by an icy grip of dread. I stared at my phone, the screen glowing ominously in front of me. My heart thudded loudly within my chest, each beat a reminder of the frail barrier separating my ordinary life from the unknown dangers lurking just beneath the surface. What does that mean? Eva's voice cut through my thoughts, heavy with concern. Clara, you need to tell me everything. Who is this billionaire? What did you find out? I shook my head, a whirlwind of thoughts colliding within me. My instincts told me to protect the truth, but Eva's unwavering gaze made me feel vulnerable. I sighed, taking a deep breath to steady the quiver in my voice as I leaned closer to her. He was collapsed in the alley when I found him. I thought he was dead. The words caught in my throat. But he wasn't. He was strong enough to pull back. I could feel Eva's eyes on me, waiting for the full revelation, urging me to continue. And then, those agents, they were there looking for him, I guess. They kept talking about secrets or something important. So you got caught up in their mess, she said, expressing a blend of frustration and concern. This is bigger than us, Clara. You don't know what they're capable of. The nerves in my stomach twisted tighter. I know, but something about him, there was this connection. Like he needed me, not just as the girl who helped him, but as if I had opened a door into something he couldn't escape. That doesn't mean you're safe, Eva exclaimed, her voice a mix of panic and urgency. You have to be careful. You can't get entangled in whatever world he belongs to. We don't know what they'll do if they believe you've seen something you shouldn't have. I wrung my hands together, glancing back at the cafe entrance, half expecting the agents to return. What if they sensed I had revealed too much? But he needs help, I whispered, fear creeping into the edges of my resolve. What if his life is at risk? As if summoned by my thoughts, my phone buzzed again, tearing me from the momentary lull. I picked it up cautiously, all too aware of the symbolic nature of the message. It wasn't from the unknown number this time. The screen displayed a name I recognized, a friend from the other side of my life, someone I hadn't spoken to in weeks, someone whose presence ignited nostalgia. Call me. We need to talk, the message read, coded in urgency. What's wrong? Eva asked, her brow furrowing as she caught sight of my expression shifting to astonishment. There's someone I haven't spoken to in so long. She's always been in the same circles as him. Maybe she knows, maybe she's part of it, Eva cautioned, her eyes narrowing skeptically. If you're going to reach out, don't get overwhelmed. Keep your guard up. I nodded, aware of the growing shadow cast by my own curiosity and fear, but I could feel a flicker of hope brewing. Perhaps this encounter could illuminate the murky waters I was floundering through. So, against the rising tide of hesitation, I texted back, "Am available." As the minutes dragged on, the adrenaline of anticipation mingled with anxiety. Conversations around us blurred, a muffled cacophony, as my focus narrowed on the immediate future. A part of me longed for sanctuary, to retreat into the safety of my old existence, but it felt futile. The moment of crossing paths with the unknown was irreversible. Suddenly, the cafe door opened once again. I held my breath as a storm of anxiety hit me. Was it the agents returning? My heart raced, fingers trembling as I turned to see who had entered. It was a tall man, dressed in an unassuming gray jacket, his face obscured by a baseball cap. But even from across the room, something about him sparked an unnerving recognition deep within me. For a brief flash, I thought I saw a hint of familiarity under the shadow he cast beyond the ordinary fabric of clothing. There was a presence that felt distinctly out of place at the cafe. Eva's voice broke through my daze. "Clara, talk to me." "What are you thinking?" I grimaced, still watching the man as he strolled in, his eyes dancing across the room as if gauging each patron's relevance. "He looks like someone I remember from that night." "Are you serious? You think he's related to the agents?" she whispered, eyes darting skeptically. "I don't know," I breathed, excitement and disbelief tangling within me. I had to find out. There was something in his demeanor that hinted at the myriad secrets he carried. I felt the pull of something larger than myself compelled toward the man who offered a possibility of clarity in a whirlwind of chaos. As he drew closer, my breath hitched, my next move eclipsed by trepidation. "Go," Eva urged, nudging me forward. "Just make sure your intentions are clear." Taking a deep breath, I stood up, every step closer to him resonating with both dread and exhilaration. The moment he turned, revealing a pair of piercing green eyes that locked onto mine, the world around us faded away. Before I could utter a syllable, he spoke, a voice weaving a darker web around me. "If you're here, then you're already in danger." Before I could respond to the clarity of his warning or the impending tension, the agent stormed back through the door, filling the cafe again with tension. "There you are? We need to talk." My heart sank further than I thought possible, everything crashing down around me. I shot a glance back at Eva, her expression revealing the weight of our shared predicament. Could I reach out to this stranger, or would my decision seal my fate? As I stepped back toward the unknown man, the realization crashed over me. Timing is everything, but in this web of uncertainty, it felt as if I had just taken my first breath before drowning. The choices hovered, and I knew I was about to be pulled deeper into the fray, for better or worse. The panic in the cafe spiraled around me, the air thick with an unspoken fear. My instincts screamed at me to flee, yet I felt an invisible tether binding me to the man with the green eyes. "You're in danger," he had said, and a knot of uncertainty settled in my stomach. In this moment, he felt like a puzzle piece I hadn't realized I was missing, but the agent's presence loomed in the backdrop, a reminder that I was over my head. "Clara, come on," Eva urged, her voice rising above the growing din, eyes darting between the agents and me. I could feel her anxiety, a palpable weight pressing against my chest. But something about the man's posture, confident yet guarded, made me hesitate. I needed clarity in the chaos, and maybe he held the key. With a soft but steady resolve, I looked back at him. "What do you know?" I barely managed to whisper, fear and urgency threading through my question. His eyes narrowed slightly, assessing, calculating the risk before replying. "More than you're prepared for. But you're already in this. There's no backing away now." The agents were closing in, their movements sharp and deliberate. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears, drowning out everything else. "Clara!" Eva's call sliced through my resolve, but I couldn't bring myself to look away from the man who felt like my only lifeline. "Tell me how to keep myself safe," I finally demanded, my fear morphing into determination. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about self-preservation, about protecting the fragile threads of safety I still clung to. Suddenly, the closest agent, a tall man with a steely gaze, addressed me, cutting through whatever moment of tension lingered. "We need a word." "Now," he said firmly, his tone unyielding, but his eyes flickered to the stranger, a warning masked within a professional exterior. The unspoken tension built, and without thinking, I reached for the stranger's arm, pulling him toward me as if he could offer me a shield. "You're not going anywhere with them," I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. His gaze softened for just a moment, and in that fleeting expression, I saw a flicker of something that mirrored my own fear, yet tempered with a strange hope. "You don't know what you're getting into," he warned, glancing at the advancing agents. But I could sense that he wouldn't abandon me, not now, not when I had stepped beyond my previous limits. "We'll figure it out together," I stated, knowing full well that my bravado could easily collapse under the weight of reality. But this was a moment where my instincts clashed with my anxious thoughts. I had to trust that this connection meant something more than circumstance. Eva shot me a look of disbelief, her expression caught between support and fear. "Clara, please," she pleaded, stepping closer, her voice somehow both soft and urgent. But it was too late. My decision crystallized with every second that ticked by as the agents loomed closer. The man next to me grabbed my hand, his grip strong and reassuring, anchoring me in place. "Stay close," he instructed, a fierce intensity igniting in his gaze. Without warning, he turned as if preparing for a standoff, placing himself strategically between me and the agents, shielding me even as uncertainty gripped my heart. "If it's her you want, you'll have to go through me," he growled, something protective boiling under his calm facade. A mixture of adrenaline and fear surged through me, standing together, united against the impending storm. I realized that even as fear wrapped its icy tendrils around my heart, I was no longer alone. I had found some semblance of solidarity in this mad world. The agent stepped forward, eyes narrowing with scrutiny, assessing this unforeseen defiance. "This is your last warning. You have no idea who you're messing with." His threat hung heavy in the air, and the weight of his words settled into my bones. As the tension thickened like the air before a storm, I felt something shift within me. Maybe I wasn't quite as fragile as I thought. A part of me, wild and unrefined, ignited with a longing to fight for the truth, for a chance to reclaim my life from the shadows that had been creeping closer since that fateful day. And just when I thought the air couldn't grow heavier, another figure appeared at the doorway, this one casting a far more chilling presence than the agents. A woman, equally stunning and intimidating, scanned the room with a knowing gaze that chilled me to the core. Her arrival felt almost like a climax in this already spiraling tale, an unforeseen plot twist I couldn't have anticipated. "Let her go," she commanded, her voice smooth yet laced with authority, sending a shiver down my spine. "This is between us now." Panic surged anew within me, but alongside it came hope, a budding realization that the tangled web surrounding me was starting to unravel, revealing layers I never knew existed. As the agents seemed to shift their attention toward her, my pulse quickened. I felt the grip of the man beside me tighten, a silent promise that we would face the unknown together. But what new dangers lay ahead? Could I really navigate this labyrinth, now that I had pieced together fragments of a world I had accidentally stumbled into? With a rush of uncertainty crashing over me, I understood one irrefutable truth: everything had changed. As I stood there, caught between the formidable forces looming over my fragile existence, I realized that the storm was far from over, and this was only the beginning. The silence that engulfed the cafe was suffocating, A fraught pause pregnant with unspoken fears and shifting alliances. I could feel the weight of the woman's gaze, a gilded cage of power and intent that settled over us like a twilight shadow. The presence of the stunning newcomer sketched a new map of danger before me, the agents momentarily diverted from their pursuit, but my heart battered within me, terrified yet furiously alive. The man beside me held his stance, not yielding an inch. "You don't get to dictate terms here," he said, voice even but laced with a quiet intensity that suggested he was more than just an unwilling participant in this escalating drama. "What do you want with her?" I sensed a pulsing undercurrent in his question, teetering on the edge of something more personal, an emotional tie crashing against my ribs. In that instant of tension, something shifted again. The world outside faded, replacing the cafe's comfort with a raw and jagged uncertainty. "Someone like her is of no concern to you, Max," the woman replied, dismissing him as if he were nothing but a fleeting annoyance. As she spoke, her eyes locked onto mine, piercing and calculating, attempting to unravel every secret guarded within. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into, dear." Her words hung in the air, enveloping me with creeping dread, as if my mere existence signified more than I could comprehend. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words formed. The weight of her presence pressed against me like a stone in my throat. "Clara, don't listen to her," the man, Max, said, his voice fierce, protective. "Keep your head. This isn't the end." He cast a glance toward Ava, who was now standing frozen, torn between support and fear. The tension carved itself into the fabric of reality, making each heartbeat sound like a drum signaling my impending doom. I could feel dread swallow my hope, dragging me down into a chasm of uncertainty and despair. "Stop trying to act like a hero," the woman warned Max, her voice cold and full of ice. "You should know by now that you cannot protect her from the consequences of your choices." With those words, a rush of panic surged within me, weaving threads of anxiety into my thoughts. "What choices? What consequences?" I blurted out, desperation creating a fissure through my fear. I was standing on the brink of a crease in my reality, confused and unprepared for what lay beyond. "You don't need to know all the details, Clara," she said sweetly, but her smile was sharp, like a blade that could cut both ways. "What matters is that these people," she gestured toward the agents, who were still hovering with menacing intent, "will not stop until they find what they seek. And you, my dear, are now a part of that." The world blurred around me as I fought to grasp what she was saying. A lifetime of choices led me here, and each decision now weighed heavily, charged with consequences that appeared distinct and cruel. What had I stumbled into? My life had been comfortably mundane until now. In the span of moments, it felt like I existed in a different realm, where shadows danced alive and reality was rewritten with every breath I took. Just then, I noticed a flicker of movement at the edge of my vision. Eva, who had been standing as still as stone, seemed to gather courage. "Clara, we have to go. This isn't safe." But before she could take a step toward me, the tall agent, who had been watching closely, sprang into action, seizing her wrist with a grip that was as suffocating as fear itself. "You're not going anywhere," he growled, twisting her arm slightly to remind us both of his authority. The man by my side flinched, instinct screaming, and just like that, the fragile safety I had briefly felt shattered. All I was left with was a vortex of panic and dread. "Let her go!" he lashed out, voice rising in urgency, yet I could see the constraints of our situation gnawing at him. "Max," the woman warned, but the heat of mounting emotions ignited the air around us into something volatile. "Stop it!" I cried, feeling as if the walls of my own heart were closing in. I would not lose Eva, not now when I had just clasped onto a shred of courage. In that moment, something unexpected happened. From the back of the cafe, a hush fell as a little girl barely 6 years old, clad in a bright dress, moved boldly to the forefront. her small frame contrasting sharply with the tension that enveloped the room. She looked up at the agents with unwavering resolve, her soft voice piercing the heavy air. "Why are you being mean? She didn't do anything wrong." A collective gasp rippled through the cafe, as if the universe held its breath. It was a soft plea, innocent and pure, and it struck everyone present, momentarily halting the momentum of concealed weapons and hidden agendas. Time stood still. The agent's hardened expressions flickered with confusion, and even the woman seemed amused yet taken aback by the unexpected interruption. For a heartbeat, clarity broke through the chaos, revealing fragile strands of hope woven into the tapestry of fear. But just as quickly as the moment had shifted, a hard voice echoed through the doorway, one I recognized from somewhere dark. "What are you all waiting for? Get her!" Sickening dread coiled back in the pit of my stomach, drowning out the girl's innocent courage. The stark reality crashed back into focus, reshaping the urgency lurking beneath the surface, yet there was still a glimmer of light, flickering defiantly amidst the shadows. I grasped Max's arm, grounding myself in the fury and fear that ignited in waves. Turning to face the crowd, I heard my own voice emerge from the chaos, tremulous yet fierce. "We won't go down without a fight." I was unsure how far this fight would take us, but when faced with the undeniable truth of the stakes, I could feel the pieces of my life rapidly fracturing and reassembling into something new. As the figures around us began to move, the battle lines drawn in the ground beneath me, I realized this was far from over. And in that moment, I also understood there was a way through this labyrinth, a path twisted and treacherous, but one worth pursuing nonetheless. At the edge of that dawning realization, I found a truth that filled me with dread and excitement. I had become the center of a storm, and I was ready to uncover the depths of this newfound world, one unpredictable turn at a time. The noise crescendos, the frantic energy in the cafe pulsating with every heartbeat, consuming me, and I realize I stand at the cusp of transformation. Fear grips me, but there's something else surging within resolve, igniting against the backdrop of tumult. The little girl's innocent courage remains etched in my mind, a beacon in this storm. Just as I summon the strength to act, the concussive sound of boots pounding against the floor interrupts my thoughts. Agents, expressions dark as storm clouds, start closing the distance with overwhelming precision. A swirl of chaos ensues. Tables are knocked, chairs scrape against the floor, and an atmosphere that was once tinged with possibility now vibrates with alarm. "Clara!" Max's voice is edged with urgency. "We need to move, now." His words act as a lasso, pulling me from the abyss of my thoughts. Desperate to hold onto this clarity, I glance at Eva. The determination in her eyes mirrors my own. "We can't just leave," I say, each word a commitment. "If we go, they'll catch us." We fight, but before my declaration sinks in, the woman who had been silent, calculating everything around her, suddenly raises a hand, and the advancing agents freeze, caught mid-step, like marionettes on invisible strings. "Enough," she commands, her authority saturating the air. "Clara, listen to me," Max insists, grounding his gaze on mine. "These people are ruthless. We need a plan, not a confrontation." He pulls me closer, the warmth of his fear-tinged frustration seeping into me. "Think. These agents won't hesitate to hurt anyone who stands in their way. We don't have the advantage." My resolve begins to waver as doubt seeps in. What if he's right? The vibrant spark ignited within me flickers, slowed by the gravity of our perilous situation. My breaths match the cadence of a drum, rising and falling uncontrollably. A part of me wants to flee, to disappear into the mundane existence I once embraced. But amidst the fading light of my resolve, I catch sight of the little girl again, standing defiantly near the doorway. Shivers run down my spine as the unfamiliar voice resurfaces as shadow, an echo from the depths of my memory. "Get her!" It barked again, a command heavy with malice. Just as confusion reigns over my thoughts, the memory floods back a face entwined with pain and regret, that of a man wrapped in a past woven deep into my own. Clara. Max's voice breaks through again. Focus. But beneath the swirling dread, an ember of memory flickers to life, a man who'd vanished from my life years ago, leaving behind an abyss filled with unanswered questions. Could it truly be him issuing the orders? Hope and horror twist together in my gut, a confluence of emotions clawing for attention. What does it mean that my father, lost in the fog of my forgotten past, could be entangled in this chaos? As my heart races, I see the agents hesitating, the momentary bond of fear and uncertainty binding us all. That's when the woman locks eyes with me again, and I can feel the weight of her intention searching for answers. Clara, you've got to understand, she says, her voice softer now, almost coaxing. The truth is more terrifying than you can imagine. You hold more value in this game than you could ever fathom. What do you mean? I challenge, finding strength in my voice, fighting to resist the tremble threatening to overtake me. You're the key, she replies cryptically, but the way she looks at me makes my skin prickle uncomfortably. To find your father, to break free from them. Follow me, and I can show you the truth that lies ahead. Enough. The man in charge snaps, frustration boiling over. He gestures, and a surge of agents moves in synchrony, brandishing their weapons. Grab them. The ground beneath me quakes with anticipation. Instinctively, I reach for Eva, and together we form a ragged alliance. I grip Max's arm with trembling hands, a desperate plea echoed in the chiseling air. Please, you both stand with me. No matter what we're racing into, we can't let fear bind us. We must trust whatever flickers of light we have in darkness. Lights flicker above us, casting lengthy shadows across the cafe. I can feel a strum of electricity crackle through the air, tension sparking like static before a storm. Together, we're a fragile barricade against an impending wave of chaos. Just as the storm of bodies descends upon us, Max takes a breath, steely determination replacing uncertainty in his gaze. He takes a step forward, then another, drawing me behind him. On 3, he whispers, and the count of 2 grips my heart in anticipation. But before he shouts 3, the little girl, the unexpected force of innocent bravery, charges ahead, darting through the confusion like a bolt of light. Stop! She cries again, voice unwavering. And then, silence, but only for a fleeting moment. As the agents turn, surprised, I hear a crash, sharp and loud, followed by the blinding flash of sunlight spilling in through the cafe's doorway. A bright figure stands just beyond, a silhouette framed against the day. Clara. The voice sounds like an anguished echo from my past. My heart stops, clutching the revelation in my chest as recognition floods over me. Time crashes into chaos again, and am swept away into the tempest of uncertainty. Who stands before me? The man I feared lost? Or the architect of all that led me here? With every fiber of my being, as realization dawns in shimmering uncertainty, I prepare myself for the reckoning. Moments dance wildly in time's whirlwind, and there I am on the brink of discovering the truth that might shatter everything I thought I knew. The room trembles with tension, a charged silence hanging like a fragile thread ready to snap. As the sunlight spills into the cafe, illuminating every corner, my heart races with urgency and confusion. The figure silhouetted at the entrance stall and imposing holds an air of undeniable familiarity, mixing with dread. Memories claw at the edges of my consciousness, but the fog of time and emotion blurs the details. Clara, run! The urgency in Max's voice cuts through the noise, compelling me to react, but my feet remain rooted. I must know who this person is, the one who has appeared like a specter from my past, wielding the power to both protect and devastate. The agents hesitate, confusion rippling through their ranks as they stand caught between their mission and the unprecedented disruption at the doorway. Just as I step forward, a memory pierces the veil, sharp and clear a recollection of laughter shared in stolen moments, whispered secrets, a father's hand grasping mine tightly as we walked along the beach. Could it really be him after all these years? Clara. He calls again, his voice pulling me closer. Frayed edges of longing and resentment collide within the man I always wished would return, yet the one who abandoned me with questions inscribed in his silence. Dad? I whisper, as if saying his name aloud could bridge the chasm between us. The word hangs suspended, trembling with unspent emotions. His eyes, familiar yet unreadable, meet mine with a mix of relief and sorrow. I've been looking for you, he says, the words unspooling with the weight of lost years. I didn't know how to find you. I thought what? I interrupt, every word torn from my heart. That you could just leave and come back whenever you felt like it? You vanished. Rage and anguish blend, a tempest threatening to drown me. He should be the savior. He should hold answers and comfort, yet here he stands, a threadbare promise wrapped in guilt. Clara, please listen. But before he can finish, the agents explode into action, aggressive and unyielding. They close ranks, a wall of intent bearing down on us, shattering our fragile moment. Now! Max barks, pulling me back as the agents form a line, weapons raised in a show of force. My heart thrums violently in my chest, teetering on the precipice of chaos. I don't want to retreat, but the collective dread coils around my decision-making. I turn back to my father, ripe with desperation. What do you want from me? My voice wavers, revealing the depths of vulnerability I habitually shrouded in strength. Clara, it's complicated, he begins, but before he can explain, the agents surge forward. I see fear flash in his eyes, mixed with a grim determination. Just then, I feel Eva's reassuring grip at my side, grounding me even in the turmoil. We can figure this out later, she urges, her voice steady amidst the storm. We have to go, Clara. Panic burgeons within me, an emotional swell threatening to break. Trust becomes an abstract idea. I don't know who to turn to. Underneath the din of chaos, I feel a flicker of hope. A little girl, still unyielding, is moving closer to us, her small hand extended. Come with me. Her voice rises above the turmoil, unwavering and strong. Her innocence becomes a rallying cry, piercing through despair. All at once, the gravity of my father's presence shifts. I am pulled toward him, pushed by the need for connection amidst a fracture of understanding. Clara, stay with me, he implores, reaching for my hand, his grasp both familiar and unsettling. I wish I could. A longing fills the gap between us, but instinct pushes me to consider the lessons of abandonment I had woven into my very being. Yet at this moment, my father's voice is a tender lure, pulling at old wounds and unhealed scars. And then, just as the wall of agents breaches, the little girl whirls around, positioning herself between the chaos and me. You can't take her, she cries, defiant in her bravery. She's special. Get her. An agent commands, the sound igniting a visceral need for escape within me. My father's hand slips away as I am struck by the weight of those words, special. What did she know that I didn't? The truth? The woman from before interjects, her voice commanding the moment. The truth is the only way forward, Clara. As I clutch my head, heart racing in turmoil, everything shifts again. The agents surge, and the little girl steps aside as I stumble backward. Suddenly, the light flashes again, overwhelming and blinding, enveloping me in a cascade of luminescence. In an instant, everything around me seems to dissolve, and just before the world fades into a single point of brightness, I hear my father's anguished call, an echo of emotion lost in the fray. Clara, don't forget. You're stronger than you know. In the streaming blinding light, I feel my courage and despair wrestling together, each pulling at my heartstrings, whispering promises and threats. I close my eyes, battling the growing darkness as I try to anchor myself against the tidal wave of uncertainty. My final thoughts swirl around the idea of uncovering the truth. I fear it could tear me apart, but I also crave it, knowing the unraveling may lead me home. As the light pulsates, I cling to hope, desperate for clarity. And just as swiftly as the brightness appears, everything plunges into obscurity, leaving me hanging on the edge of an extraordinary revelation, feet dangling, hearts racing, lost in a liminal space of relentless uncertainty. The cavernous silence envelopes me, a heavy blanket layered with confusion and nostalgia. I blink against the sudden darkness, my heart thudding with the residual echo of my father's voice. Each beat seems to remind me of the gravity of the moment. We just escaped a storm of emotions that leaves me raw and exposed. Gradually, outlines begin to surface in the blackness, muted shapes forming into walls of a familiar space. I've been here before, a sanctuary of quiet mixed with memories. The cafe's scents of coffee and pastries wrap around me like a comforting embrace, but the tension lingers, thick enough to choke on. I'm back in the cafe, but it's different now. The air is electric, charged with the unresolved clash of love and betrayal. As I rise to my feet, shaky and disoriented, I can feel Eva's presence beside me, her hand steadying my arm. She's my anchor in this spiraling world, a reminder that despite the whirlwind, I'm not alone. Clara, are you okay? Her voice is laced with concern, pulling me from the depths of my thoughts. I think so, I reply, voice unsteady. Where's my father? And the agents? Panic tightens around me like a vice, threatening to close in. They left when the light flared up. I don't know how, but they just vanished. It was like she trails off, her confusion palpable. Like magic? I finish, half-heartedly attempting a smile, though the corners of my mouth refuse to cooperate. Magic, perhaps, but not the kind that brings comfort. The kind that rends reality into pieces, leaving unwanted puzzles in its wake. The walls seem to pulse with my anxiety, and I take a deep breath, searching for clarity in the haze. We have to find him. No matter what he is or what he did, I need to know why he came back, I assert, fighting against the trepidation clawing at my insides. Eva nods. I believe you. But we have to be smart, Clara. We have to figure out what's really going on first. There's a resolve in her eyes, a bond formed through shared adversity that reinforces my determination. We step out of the cafe, the sun gently illuminating the street, but the warmth feels foreign as I approach the chaos of the outside world. My heart races, as if the rhythm of life has resumed without my consent. People bustle on the sidewalks, unaware of the cataclysm that just unfolded in their midst. It's absurd ordinary lives carrying on in a world turned upside down. The little girl flashes across my mind, her innocent bravery a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling within me. Who was she? What did she mean by special? I promise myself that I will seek answers, no matter the cost. Clara! A voice calls, piercing through my thoughts. It's Max, rushing toward me with his usual urgency. You disappeared. I thought his relief morphs into worry, as he takes in my face, the shaken remnants of chaos still clinging to me. What happened? Where's your father? Gone, I whisper, fighting the tremor in my voice. He was right there, and then everything went dark. I swallow, trying to push away the bitterness at the back of my throat, the sharp tang of frustration mixing with desperation. I need to find him. Max.do you think he's a threat? He asks, searching my eyes, the concern morphing into an instinctive protector's posture. The weight of his question feels heavier than it should, drowning out the resolve that chased my heart moments ago. What if no? I cut him off, stronger this time. He's not a threat to me, Max. I know he isn't. He's my father, and it's complicated, but I have to understand. Max studies me, weighing my words with the gravity of his concern. Okay then, but we need a plan. If those agents are involved, they're not going to stop looking for you. A sudden thought strikes me. What if the little girl knows something? Maybe she's more connected to this than we realize. Max nods, and a flicker of determination ignites within me. We should find her. If she's special, then perhaps she has insights about the people chasing us. As we set off, my pulse quickens, the weight of the unknown propelling me forward. But under the thick veil of anxiety, a small current of hope begins to ripple through me. That little girl seemed to see something in me I could barely grasp. Through winding streets and unfamiliar avenues, I clutch at my heart, deeper questions echoing in my mind. What is my connection to the agents? What truth lurks at the heart of this mystery? As we round the corner towards the park where I last saw her, something in the air shifts. An intense chill makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Standing in a small clearing is the little girl, a solitary figure against a backdrop of vibrant flowers, far too calm amidst the chaos. "Clara!" she calls, and the way she fixes her gaze on me curtails my breath. There's a knowing glimmer in her eyes, something ancient and unfathomable. "What do you know?" I press, my heart racing. "You're lost," she replies simply, as if unveiling a universal truth. "But I can help you find what you need. It's waiting for you." Waiting where? My pulse quickens, anticipation and foreboding threading through my core. In the darkness, her words hang heavily between us, the sinister undertones making the fragile hope teeter precariously. What darkness? What waits there? And just as the gravity of her statement sinks in, the world jolts. Dark figures emerge from the trees, their intentions unreadable, and I feel my heart drop as realization washes over me. The agents have returned, and this time, they're not leaving without answers. "Clara!" Max shouts, pulling me close as I grip the little girl's hand, the faint feeling of safety slipping through my fingers. With the shadows closing in, I realize that the very darkness I dread may be the only path left to take. It seems the truth we seek lies in treacherous depths, but I also grapple with a bigger question: is the truth worth the cost of everything I have left? In that moment, I stand caught between hope and despair, desperately clinging to the little girl's unwavering belief that I might still find the answers I need, or the worst fate imaginable. The park felt different that day. The sunlight danced through the trees, casting fleeting shadows that felt more like barriers than mere shades. The little girl, despite the chaos surrounding us, appeared untouched by fear, more a specter of light glimmering beyond the gloom than a child ensnared by darkness. Her presence anchored me, even as danger lurked nearby. The agents flanked the perimeter like hawks, eyes sharp and predatory. "Clara," Max insisted, urgency threading through his voice as he gripped my arm. "We need to move." I fought against the swell of emotion rising within me, knowing I couldn't abandon the possibility this little girl represented. "No! We can't just run. If she can help, we have to trust her." My voice trembled but held a fierce conviction. As I spoke, I could see the child's eyes wide and earnest, like a lighthouse in the harrowing storm of uncertainty. Without warning, she stepped forward, drawing closer to the encroaching shadows. "You're stronger than you know. But to find the truth, you must confront the darkness within." Her words resonated like a mantra, a powerful reminder of the fragility and resilience that coexisted within me. I inhaled sharply, my heart pounding in synchronization with the fear and courage intermingling in my soul. As if sensing my resolve, the little girl held out her small, delicate hand. "Take my hand, Clara," she said, her voice soothing but urgent. It was then that I realized the true depth of this moment. It wasn't just about fleeing from danger or seeking answers regarding my father, it was about confronting the murky waters of my own heart. I glanced at Max. His expression reflected my own turmoil, a mix of doubt and unwavering loyalty. "Trust me," I whispered as I stepped closer to the girl, interlacing my fingers with hers. The warmth of her small palm ignited something dormant within me, and I felt a ripple of strength surge through the cracks of my fear. The agents closed in, their numbers overwhelming, but the clarity blooming in my heart whispered that this wasn't just about survival. It was my chance to reclaim the narrative of my life. We can't let them dictate our story any longer. You might think you own this story, but you don't. I shouted, my voice steadying, ringing out even against the chaos. Before the agents could step any closer, the little girl's eyes gleamed with determination as she turned to face them, clearing her throat. You may have power, but you will not take her. Clara belongs to herself. An unexpected pulse of bright energy surged from her, enveloping us both, and I could see confusion and uncertainty flicker across the agents' faces. It was as if time slowed, their relentless march halted by a force beyond their control. Max's grip tightened around my hand, his eyes darting between me and the girl. "What are you doing?" he questioned, half in awe and half in fear. "I am holding on," I stated firmly, inspiration coursing through me, linking me to something greater than I had ever experienced. This was not simply a struggle for freedom. This was a reclamation of my essence, of truth, of belonging. The little girl's voice emanated next to me, a new harmony mixing with the chaos. "You have the power to shine, Clara. Don't forget who you are. This is your moment." Her words crystallized into certainty, awakening dormant echoes of courage that stitched my heart back together. In that electrified moment, clarity cascaded through me like sunlight breaking through the thickest of clouds. I wasn't just a lost girl in a chaotic world. I was the keeper of my destiny, refusing to be swept into shadows. The agents faltered again, uncertainty creeping through their ranks as they bore witness to this impossible convergence of hope standing defiantly before them. And suddenly, I felt the power they believed they owned slipping through their fingers, binding themselves in sheer disbelief. With fear striking a contrasting harmony against this newfound courage, I surged forward, propelled by purpose and empowered empathy. "I won't be your pawn. I won't let you shatter the bonds of hope and possibility," I declared, allowing the aspirations that formed in my heart to flow through me. As their collective anger began to bubble over, I relinquished the grip on uncertainty, anchoring myself in acceptance. If I fall on my own terms. The world felt alive, every breath mingling with the tides of potential swirling before me. My words hung heavy in the air, a beacon drawing upon the anticipation and longing of all those around me. The agents, perhaps bewildered by the defiance of a girl they deemed inconsequential, faltered, and in that moment, the entire narrative shifted. "Now, Clara," the little girl commanded. With our intertwined strength, we pushed back against the darkness, igniting a brilliant glow that blinded the encroaching shadows surrounding us. And as that light expanded, drowning the agents in its warmth, I understood it wasn't just the memory of my father that surged forth. It was every moment I buried, every ember that refused to die out. The agents recoiled, their frowns transforming into expressions of disbelief. "What is happening?" one of them muttered, as the glow brightened until it enveloped us whole. I felt a surge of warmth and light, one that pulsated through each fiber of my being, rapidly dissolving the grip of fear that had held me captive for so long. Then, in a shatter of brilliance, the light burst outward, a cascade illuminating the darkened corners of my life. The agents were overwhelmed, shadows dissolving around them as they withdrew, their power disintegrating in the face of this radiant truth that had unearthed itself. As the glow started to fade, I looked to the girl beside me, her beaming smile a sense of reassurance I longed to hold onto. "You did it, Clara," she explained, dancing with delight as she twirled in the clearing light. I could hardly believe it. Had we truly done it? Had I taken a step forward into my own narrative, transcending the fears that had tethered me for far too long? And then came that voice again, this time echoing with clarity and resonance, deeper than ever, "You're ready now." The realization struck like lightning through my core as the connections I had long buried became a volatile force of determination. I knew then, standing amidst the wavering shadows of the cafe now fully illuminated with sunlight, that it was never just about escaping the agents, or reclaiming my father's presence. It was about finally stepping into the essence of who I was, a conduit of hope, a resilient heart, and a force for my own freedom. In that moment of grounding clarity, I looked to Max and the little girl, my heart full and fierce. Let's find the truth together. Let's shine light into the corners that were once forgotten. In this forging of community amidst chaos, I felt the whispers of every lost moment finally meeting the storms of hope that called me home. As we stood ready to face the horizon, I realized one vital truth. It wasn't just the light within that mattered. It was the strength to illuminate the path forward, to stand unyielding against the unknown, and to embrace the journey of becoming powerful, fully alive, and unbreakably connected. And that became my final promise, to soar beyond what had once confined me, and finally claim my rightful place in a world that twinkled with endless possibility. So, as the sunshine peeled back the layers of uncertainty, I stood with my truest self, raw, authentic, and ready to let my heart lead the way beyond the final door toward whatever awaited under the expansive sky. Because, after all, my journey was just beginning, and with every step, the story would unfold brighter than the last, driven by love, and a courage that refused to wane.